Now we are gonna call upon stage Miss Angela Tiki of Greece. She is the founder of Dear Dresses, and she's a very famous Western astrologer. Her lecture topic is Fixed Cross, the Sphinx and a Riddle of Life.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Angela Tiki. I come from Greece, and I'm here in India, just like Alexander the Great. I don't know if he managed to be in Calcutta, but I am happy to be here. So I'm going to talk to you about the fixed cross through the symbol of the Sphinx, because as you know, all the mythological archetypes, there are stories and things that describe the human behavior behind all these explanations and the adventures and everything that happens to the people, to the human beings. So the Sphinx, in reality, was a monstrous creature which was standing on the top of a hill, guarding the gates of the city of Thebes. In Greek, the name Sphinx means keep tight, having something very tight. So he was guarding the city and nobody can enter. She had a human head, and this is Aquarius, the thinking. She had the body of a bull, which is the Taurus, the legs and tails of a lion, and the wings of an eagle, that's Scorpio. The physical appearance of the Sphinx is the personification of the fixed cross and encompasses the four elements of the nature. However, there is a fifth invisible element, which is the ether. It's the divine essence found in the riddle itself, which gives life and immortality. Her assignment was to kill everyone trying to enter into the city, and he would try to claim the throne using a riddle that only gods could understand. The myth says that Laius, the king of Thebes, had hundreds of children and mistresses, but only one legitimate one, because it was prophesied that at one point, if he had a legal child, it was going to kill him. So he was afraid to. And he never had a child with his wife, but his wife wanted a child, and so what she did, she drank him, and she got pregnant, and the moment that she gave birth to a child, which is Oedipus in English, Oedipodas, Oedipodas is the most tragic figure of the Greek mythology. So as a newborn, he was abandoned in the forest by his father, and he had tied his legs. So in reality, Oedipus means the one who has swelled feet. He was afraid, of course, of the oracle, and the child was left and abandoned. But the goddesses of fate took over, and the shepherd found the child. So they took the child and delivered to another kingdom nearby, where he was raised as a royal prince. But as he grew older, Oedipus discovered that his insofar reality and the sense of belonging somewhere was actually an illusion. However, when he asked his parents said, no, you are our son, don't ask, why do you want to ask? And he said, I want to know. So in a search of an answer, he went to the temple of Apollo in Delphi, where this Apollo is the god of light, only to be informed that he was destined to murder his father and marry his mother. So this was such an insult and profanity that the priestess started shouting, don't enter into the temple, you are going to contaminate it, this is a sacred place. And remember, he was searching for his identity by the moment, and if these are his parents. And even though he didn't get the answer, when he found out that he's going to kill his parents, immediately he thought of his parents that raised him. So he said, no, I'm not going to harm them. So he decided to fool the fate and travel away from home. So he got a different direction. Now, on his way to Thebes, in 3 roads crossed, he argued with a chariot and he killed him. So this part of fate was executed, because how could he know? This was his real father. This was the King Laius. So in order to enter the city, Oedipus had to encounter the Sphinx. The riddle could only be answered by a royal descendant, and eventually it was given to Oedipus by the gods. During his sleep, actually it was Athena who helped him. So the riddle was, what is the creature that walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 in the evening? And this is the man, because once we are born, we walk in 4. When we are adults, we walk in 2. And when we are old enough, we need a stick, so we walk with 3 legs. So being able to solve it, the Sphinx threw herself over the rocks and died. The gates were now open to the new king. In the myth, Oedipus symbolizes the new light, the sun of the heavens, as prior to his arrival, the sky was gray and covered with clouds. The Sphinx had the voice of a thunder, and thus only the sun can conquer the thunder, the clouds, and be dissipated. Just like true knowledge scatters ignorance and helps the spiritual advances of humanity. This, of course, doesn't mean that he had reached the end. Actually, and on the contrary, this is where the real journey begins, because the gates open, and this was in order to experience what was really written of his destiny. And remember, he forgot why he left his search. He went somewhere else, and he started asking for his parents to know who he is, but he was carried away to another place, and he didn't want or didn't care anymore to find his true identity. So he remains ignorant, he thrives, he reigns perfectly, he marries the widow of the deceased king, and he has 4 children. Okay, he still ignores who he really is. While everything seems to be perfect in his life, he is about to experience the greatest pain and suffer of his life, because he found out that this is his mother that he got married. She commits suicide, and now he sees that he fulfilled his destiny, and he blinds himself. Third eye. He doesn't need anymore his physical senses. He blinds himself because he understands that what I see with my physical senses is not the reality. Now he knows, but this also means that he was abandoned by his children, except from one, which is Antigone. Antigone means equal to progenitor, and she is the one who he was leading Oedipus to the final destination in Colonus, where he finds his spiritual light and he's apotheosized by the gods. Now he has gained the place to immortality, and this is where everything is done and finished. The search of acknowledging the self is found in other philosophies as well. The story of Buddha is a reality containing all the elements of such a journey. Having a privileged life as the son of a king, it was prophesied that he was destined to achieve great things. However, it was also predicted that he was either going to stay in the palace and become an emperor, or he would choose to go away and become a spiritual leader. His father was worried, so he did everything in his power to offer him luxury and therefore attach him to the world of matter. Yet one day he was able to see people's life in its true dimensions, and he was so deeply affected by the pain he witnessed, he decided to leave everything behind, a choice reflecting an existential crisis determined to solve. His mission was to find out if there was a way to avoid suffering every time we come to life. Throughout his quest, he sought for a transformative experience, a way to solve the samsara. He realized that being absorbed with ourselves, we become selfish, which generates worries, keeping us trapped to samsara. The way to liberation is to get rid of the delusional self. Remaining focused to the I creates pain, but by rediscovering ourselves, we become the world. Self-transformation is accomplished when we manage to uproot yearning, unawareness, and delusion. This brings us to the final stage of enlightenment, nirvana. Through the fixed cross, the soul becomes aware of its existence. In a prior stage, the human intentions are more self-centered, childish, and dark, led by instincts and immature emotions. The individual goes through the same mistakes until one gradually starts to comprehend the experiences, the repetitive patterns that we know, and the lessons become meaningful. The soul is now willingly, which is Taurus, searches for the pure light leading to the heart of the God, which is Leo. There's going to be pain, suffering, and death, which is Scorpio, until the spirit becomes wisdom, shared with the rest of the humanity, Aquarius. The sacrifice refers to the death of the unconscious personality. We're going through a period where the universal energy brings the awareness of the fixed cross. As from 2017, eclipses in the Leo-Aquarius axis and the shift May 7th, the lunar nodes mark the beginning of the fixed cross activation. Emotional and life experiences are now perceived and interpreted in a totally different way. The new scenario gives birth to the need of joy, creativity, and being oneself as the North Node is transiting Leo. Leo is the king of the zodiac, and he is ruled by the sun. He's our world's source of life. You see, we can give everything, glory, sun, whatever, to Leo. No wonder why he was worshipped since the beginning of the humanity. Men were able to recognize that the life giver was found in the core of the existence. It portrays an eternal cycle where he rises and sets by repeatedly defeating the darkness death. God Ra for the Egyptians, Helios, Apollo for the Greeks, Sol for the Romans, the Sumerian Utu, the Syrian god Elegabal, the Babylonian sun god Shamash, Surya in Hinduism, Jesus in Christianity, the sun is the eternal figure of enlightenment and liberation. The ultimate purpose of the god is so unique and irreplaceable that it rules the sign of Leo both in traditional and esoteric astrology. There are 3 levels of manifestation through Sun Leo. First, we have the natural sun, supposed to write natural here, the one perceived by the senses, the celestial body, sending light and warmth here through rays in our Earth. It is placed in the center of our universe where all the planets revolve around it, obeying to its natural rules. Then we have the heart. Sun and Leo are connected to the heart. A man is physically alive as long as the heart beats. This state, however, also describes the human soul and the divine ego. Lastly, we have the central spiritual sun. This is the stage of the divine consciousness, the highest level of evolution, the enlightened man. When the cognitive power of the soul, based in the center of the brain, moves towards the intellectual essence of the soul, based in the center of the heart, then the mind meets the divine grace and the union creates the pure vital spirit. Why the center? Now think of the glass. When the sun in the center of one glass is where fire emerges. And this is the same way when once the mind and the perceptual forces of the soul gather in the center, they become stronger and brighter. The personality expresses itself in the sign of Leo. In this place, we realize who we truly are and what the soul wants in order to be happy. But delusion, once again, remains the main obstacle in recognizing the truth. It is more convenient and easy to stick to our stamina stage, allow us to be guided by the raw instincts and emotions, rely on what our eyes can see, but let our spirit be blinded. Whenever we determine who we are based on external experiences and shallow expectations, we recede from our reality. It is as if we look directly to the powerful brightness of the physical sun with naked eyes. It might be tempting and spectacular, but eventually damaging. The light of the spiritual sun, on the other hand, is revealing and heals the soul. Through the sign of Leo, we draw our creativity. In this way, we reflect our inner beauty and we satisfy our need to externalize our originality. Giving form to the love we have within can be nothing more than divine creation. Children are love. Art is love. Happiness is love. We have to ask ourselves, which purpose did we serve? Are we driven by a conscious endorsements? Think for a moment, if a person craves to be recognized and admired by the others, this automatically moves the center of his world outwardly. For this person, recognition means power, the power to continue walking in the path of delusion. But if the person won't get his fuel, this world will collapse for him. Often people betray their souls in order to fit to the external standards. An evolved Leonine energy, on the other hand, is motivated by love and chooses to give the world the best version of the self. He is in no need of an approval as long as what he does emerges from the wisdom of the heart. And here I have Gnosis Avton. This was found in Apollo Delphi, the oracle. We said this is the god of sun, and it means know thyself. Before you enter into the temple, you have to know yourself. In the myth and stories described earlier, we saw the kings renouncing their kingdoms in a quest for a spiritual one. And king is a centrality figure who's given not only political, but also spiritual focus. A true king must become confident, being able to take wise and fair decisions. He must have the power to fight against the influence of flatterers because he knows who he is. A capable king must have integrity, honesty, and determination, which is Leo, but also listen to the advices of his consultants, be aware of the needs of his people, having the gift of knowing and understanding, which is Aquarius, taking impartial decisions for the greater good of his kingdom. Kingdoms were considered to be God's representatives, so a good king embodies God, but also displays human qualities in order to interact with the mortals. If the kingdom is ourself and the counselors are our inner voice, our mission is to rule and create the best kingdom ever. What better way to do that than create internal stability by mastering over lower human attributes like greed, arrogance, and self-centeredness. Leo and Aquarius complement each other, maintaining the balance between the personal expression and the greater good. There is a general belief that our karmic purpose is to leave the South Node, which contains past experiences and establishments, and achieve fulfillment in the stage of the Northern Node. However, if one is right-handed and wants to learn to use his left hand, he will definitely not cut his skilled one. In reality, everything works in pairs and cycles. It takes cooperation to create healthy results. Experiences are part of who we are and can be transmuted into a useful guide throughout the path. The ideal manifestation of the energy is to use the Aquarian detachment, observe things in a distance, and thus stay unaffected from the materialistic side of life and eventually use the energy at thoughtful will. The most significant and meaningful expression comes when the spirit is aware of its true identity. This is the time when the lower materialistic aspects of life exert no power over the individual. On the contrary, it is the individual who has the power over them. Spiritual Leo Sun spreads its influence through Aquarius Uranus. In order for this combination to work perfectly, universal truth and not with their egocentric animal self. Aquarius is the sign of the universal knowledge, the selfless purified wisdom which belongs to all humanity. In the Gospel of Mark, the sunlight Jesus sends two of his disciples to the city, which is not named, with the quest to follow a man to his house in order to prepare the Last Supper. Behold, when you enter the city, you shall meet a man carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house he enters. The two disciplines were Peter and John, the first one as the symbol of act, and the second one as the symbol of theory. The city represents the physical world, and the man they have to follow is the human race at this point. Inside the pitcher of water is kept the practical philosophy and wisdom. They become the precursors of prepare humans, purify the natural world, exercise the effort to maintain pureness, and consequently elevate spiritually by using the power of knowledge. It takes more than just to know. We must rather possess the knowledge, become part of ourselves, and reversely ourself becomes part of the knowledge. In the house led, Jesus is about to prepare his 12 disciplines, introduce them to the knowledge of the upcoming sacrifice on behalf of all mankind, sharing the bread body and wine blood as the eternal food of life. The water Barriers Aquarius becomes the foundation of the higher intellect, illuminated by the divine light of the secret awareness. Now, the new placement of Jupiter, the king of the gods, in Scorpio, on October 10th of 2017, activated the third stage of the fixed cross. In Scorpio, we find the passage through which the discipline is initiated to the deeper mysteries. Here, the task is to willingly separate from emotional detachments and triumph after having discovered the self in Leo. Scorpio is power, but the way we use the power describes the stage of our evolution. A man could be a hostage of his passions and desires until the point he understands the nature of those passions by digging deeper and deeper into the source. Scorpio is connected with all the emotions and experiences that are hidden and buried, but ultimately have shaped the personality. Facing ugliness is painful. Facing traumas is painful. Facing hurt is painful. The beauty, however, is found in the transformation. In Scorpio, the personality has to symbolically die and revive in the light. This is where tests, pain, and suffering are found. One must display persistence and endurance, prove that the lower self is mastered, and a new one emerges, capable to serve subsequently the Aquarian demands. This takes us to Hercules, the hero of the heroes. Half man, half god, aren't we all? A god trapped in the human body, struggling between two worlds, destined to suffer more than anyone else. He was obsessively hunted by Hera, the wife of Jupiter. And actually, Hercules means the glory of Hera. And Hera is the anagram of the word air in Greek, which means breath, the essence, the ether, the spirit. So, this is also a god trapped in a human body, struggling between the two worlds. He also destined to suffer, just like Oedipus. He commits an unspeakable harm, which is he murdered his family, his wife and his children in a moment of craziness. He didn't know what he was doing. So this is where he wanted to redeem, and so he was given 12 impossible challenges. Each one represents a sign in a quest for redemption, known as the labors of Hercules. For his second labor, he was assigned to kill the Lernaean Hydra, a 9-headed poisonous water serpent used to eat people alive. Note that Hydra was the sister of Sphinx. Hercules attacked the beast and decapitated the heads, but even though he was decapitated, two were emerging from each head he had cut. And this represents the human lust for pleasure, which seems to be unkillable. He then realizes that in order to succeed, he needs more than muscles. With the help of a torch, he burns every neck he had cut. With the last thrust, Hercules separates the head from the body and buries the 9th or immortal one under a huge rock. He's not over, though. He dipped his arrow into the blood of Hydra, and from this point his arrows were poisoned, and so any wounds inflicted by them would be incurable. And this perfectly describes the toxicity found in Scorpio, as toxic is the derivative from the Greek word toxon, which is the arrow, the bow, that he has dipped into the blood of Hydra, the poisonous one. So it's fascinating how he could eventually transform Hydra for his own benefit. Whenever Jupiter transits or placed in a chart, it is the area where suddenly we feel more comfortable and optimistic. Jupiter brings expansion and thus the urge to go beyond the limits. In Scorpio, Jupiter goes hand in hand with the god of the underworld, Pluto, and the co-ruler, Mars. His mission is to explore what's secreted under the surface and bring it into justice. By uncovering the self-destructive patterns which prevent us from being a healthy individual, the realization and acceptance will set us free. We can use our inner passion to remove the pollution and our crimes. This is where we choose to be good and stand the test. By doing so, each time we ameliorate our skills to survive. We are empowered by making use of the physical strength, and that's a win. Our experience to our purification can be a useful guide to the others as well. Material desire can be transformed into divine love. The entrance of Uranus in Taurus is the final necessary component to bring Sphinx into full life. It is going to beat us, or is it going to throw her over the cliffs? Taurus is the sign of matter, the sign we realize the physical form of ourselves and our surroundings. Taurus is also the sign of desire. This is where we derive the motivation for creation and growth. Through Taurus, we value what we need to survive, but also to sustain our existence in the physical form. In the lower form of expression, the individual is trapped within the senses, and so while it seeks for security, self-worth, and everything that is tangible, by identifying the value of the personality in relation to the materialistic acquisitions, this is an element of ignorance and disorientation. The desire is subjective in terms of the spiritual values. The path of the truth, however, begins once the desire is enlightened and identifies with the divine will. Taurus is the epitome of fertility and love, but mainly it is the sexual expression. Here we derive pleasure, physical attraction, and sensual satisfaction. We cannot dismiss the earthy element, however. We were born in this way only to bring balance between the earthy and spiritual, being able to properly use it and advance our spirit. We need attraction and we need physical contact to perpetuate human race. This is how we obtain sustainability, one of the main characteristics of the fixed cross. So we don't have time for the seventh labor? No. For 3 minutes. So this is the seventh labor of Hercules. This is when he was asked to capture the Cretan bull, and this is, in the ancient times, Crete was very firm and wealthy city-state, while the rest of the Greek world had to pay taxes, and so Hercules went there to capture the bull, which is the Taurus sign, and the myth goes that Poseidon had given a bull to the king in order to sacrifice it to himself, and so he will help him be healthy. And once the king saw the bull, he said, "Oh, I'm going to keep it for myself, I'm not giving it." So he changed it and gave it another bull. But Poseidon, of course, understood it. And so what he did, he cursed him and made the bull fall in love with his wife, and the wife fall in love with the bull. So he lost, in order to keep the bull, something that he was grasping, all he did was to lose love. That was his wife. So the key to success, to conclude, okay, we do not kill desires. I don't have a thought. We do not kill desires. What we do is we take them, and then we are free. Material possessions such as money are there to serve us and not to serve them. They can offer us pleasure, but they cannot replace happiness and love. The key to success is to become the masters of our destiny. Before all, we must solve the riddle of life and follow the path of purification. The gates guarded by the Sphinx will open once we bring inner victory over our lower self. The mythic creature brings the message of the fixed cross, the rise of the king as a humble man who has reached the higher level of its being by imposing his will over the material desires and ultimately being transformed by becoming the love and compassion itself. So thank you from my heart.